Hi, this is Greg Suddy on Soccer. I am here with Rene Ortiz, San Diego Soccer's assistant coach, um, Mexico WMF national team head coach. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about, well, one of the things we're going to do, Rene, is we're going to talk a little bit about all those balloons that are in the background on the floor. You have a whole bunch of balloons on the floor behind you. What's going on with that?
Yeah, this is our kind of like a workout classroom, and sometimes it's used by the ASB when they do assemblies. So before they decorate the assemblies at school, this is the room where they come in and inflate the balloons and get all the signs and everything ready for the assembly. So yeah, that's why we're here. But it's peaceful, it's quiet, it's peaceful. That's why I choose this room to be with you, Craig. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so let me just tell some people and yourself, this morning has been sort of a complicated morning with my internet connection. So if this broadcast is glitchy on the Facebook broadcasts, it may be a better broadcast stream on the YouTube for the people that are watching. Yeah, thanks so much for joining me. What we're going to do, Rene, is we're going to talk a little bit about your career. I think there's some highlight notes going on there that are pretty fun to talk about, especially as Milwaukee Wave and San Diego Sockers fans, because that's where a lot of your time was spent playing in the indoor game, and then we're going to talk about some of your coaching, your career in coaching. It started early, but first let's start with your playing. First, let's start with growing up. So you were born in the United States, but you were raised in Tijuana. Is that correct?
Correct. My parents got married and then they moved to Anaheim. I was born, and then my dad went to the U.S. military, went to the Army, enlisted. So my mom came home to visit family, her mom and uncles and sisters, obviously her sisters, and her brothers. She's the only sister. And when my dad came back from the military, my mom didn't want to go back to the States. So they ended up buying a house in Tijuana, and that's where I grew up, and my brother was born. So I spent obviously kindergarten, elementary, middle, and 1 year of high school in Tijuana.
Okay, so when you left there, where in San Diego did the family move to?
So it was right across the border here by Nestor here in San Diego. Now we live in Chula Vista.
Okay.
I live in Chula Vista. So I ended up going to Southwest High School. I went to Southwest my junior and senior year. And then that's kind of where my soccer career kind of took off in the U.S.
Yeah, I guess the San Diego Sockers noticed this guy Rene Ortiz playing on the Southwest High School team, because you got picked up by the San Diego Sockers. Weren't you still in high school when you got picked up by the Sockers?
I was still in high school, but I didn't sign until after I graduated from high school. So I was like 17. Johan Arnio was the assistant coach of Ron Newman. He saw me play at the Aztec Bowl, the old Aztec Bowl, San Diego State, against the U.S. U17 team. It was an exhibition game, and after that, they invited me to visit the soccer's office when the soccer's office was at the sports arena. They had rented the office there, and I remember walking in there and see all the trophies from the early '80s. Up that until in '86, because they didn't win the championship in '86, I think. And I just remember coming in, and I remember watching some of the soccer's game, mostly outdoor, at Jack Murphy Stadium, and it was like a surreal moment for me, because I was just like, I always thought about becoming a soccer player. That was my dream, but Me walking to the office when I had a meeting with assistant coach Johan Arnio, it was kind of sinking in the possibility of me playing professionally. It might be closer than I thought it was going to be. So
That's
the soccer's kind of like it was. They marked me since day one because that was the initial club that had faith in me or saw something in me,
right,
and I will
right,
always
right.
be grateful for San Diego. I will be grateful for San Diego and love just the whole history, the franchise, and obviously my roots and my love for the colors are obviously till I die, till the end, because that's the club that I was born and allow me to um,
Right.
fulfill my dream as a soccer player.
Well, there were two other players that were picked up pretty much simultaneously with Rene Ortiz. I believe wasn't Ralph Black and Paul Wright also brought in on at the same time that you were?
No, it was actually Rob Williams. Rob
Oh,
Williams,
okay, Ralph Williams. That's
who
right.
later became
That's right.
assistant coach with Brian Quinn. He, I think,
That's
was coming
right.
from a junior college or a college in LA, Orange County. And Paul Wright, that's when I met Paul
Okay.
out of Grossman High School. And yeah, we did sign exactly the same day, and we started the same time with the club. Yeah,
What?
very
How
very.
exciting is that?
Uh, well, now
That's
you're looking
great.
back, yeah, it's kind of it was we're 17. We didn't know anything what was going to happen with our
Right.
careers. Who would have thought that 50 years later,
Right.
30 years later, whatever, 40 years later, we're still involved in the business. We're still in some way connected with the soccer's, and Paul right now is obviously pursuing her coaching career with Empire, which I wish him the
Right.
best. And I'm some way find a way to get back to with the soccer's with Phil. So we're still around, man. We're still around. We never thought it was gonna be around after so many years.
Well, and in your case and in his case as well, it's kind of a still around as well as a around again. I mean, when you started off with San Diego Sockers, your career actually went elsewhere. I mean, you were playing here locally. This is another thing that I find really interesting because here locally, you were also playing off season with the San Diego Nomads, and at the same time that you were playing with the Sockers. With were there any of the same players that we know that were on that Nomads team with you? Because I know a lot of the players played on the Nomads team.
Well, we had some players that play with Nomads and then became later internationals. Um, Jeff Duback was a goalkeeper for the Nomads. Obviously, Paul Wright. Chris
Yep.
Henderson, who became an MLS with Ontario. His brother Pat Henderson, San Diego State alumni. I didn't play with Ronaldo, even though he played it, but I didn't play with him. Obviously, Paul Wright and that generation of Nomads players from the late '80s, early '90s. They all became very
Right.
successful soccer players at the college level. Some of them make it pro, some of
Right.
them made it U.S. national team. So
Right.
Noma was the club who pretty much uh, uh, developed American players more than any other club in the U.S. or very top in the U.S. Right? So yeah, and
Right.
they we won. I mean, Nomads youth level won a couple national championships, and then they
Right.
were
Right.
playing the PISL. So yeah, very proud to be part of that process with Derek Armstrong and Brian McManus, who later become. Brian became college coach, and now some of the players they're still around, and now they're obviously professionals. And because the Nomads, obviously the connections and the the camaraderie there was ex, experience at that young age is still around. So once you become a nomad, you become a nomad for life, and the connections are there. So very proud to be part of that process as well for 2 summers.
Well, and it was in 1989, I guess, that while you were with the Nomads, who won the WSA championship. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a league pretty much on the West Coast, and then we played the national championship. I think it was the first time we
Right.
broadcast a national championship. It was in San Jose versus, oh my god, I think it was the Florida Strikers. We ended up losing 2-1, but it was a
Wow.
great experience to be part of that game. It was national televised. This is way before MLA's day, so yeah, I was still pretty. I
Right.
was in my like early. I think it was 20 years old, so I was still pretty young. All of us. Some of the names that were playing that game was Paul Wright, Jerome Waxon, Steve Black, Steve Borman. Yeah, it was a great bunch of guys, and we were all pretty young. We were like, I think nobody surpasses the 23 years old, so a very young team under Derek Armstrong.
Wow. What great memories, though. And I mean, at the same time that's going on, you're taking 3 consecutive championships as a member of the San Diego Sockers.
Yeah, so when I came in with the Sockers, I played a few games. Obviously, I was still 17 or 18, right out of high school, and it was very hard to break the lineup, as you can imagine, right? Uh, I was in the middle, and I had Brian Quinn, Jacques Laderceau, Juan Hermes, Hugo
Right.
Perez. I
Right.
mean, among others, and and pretty much my, my opportunity to play was when they got hurt. On there was like maybe want to sit somebody out to rest, and that was my role. That's why I started like getting my minutes in, and so I played very few games the first season. The second season was very similar, play more minutes, and my third season I'm playing also a few minutes. Um, so, but I was lucky to be part of that. Those 3 championship teams that
Yes.
in
Yeah.
late 80s. Yeah.
And how amazing is that? Because there's just no way that you can play with that quality of teammates and have their professionalism and their skills and their abilities not be able to not rub off on you and not not mentor you, and you be able to play with these guys and underneath these guys and pick up some of their skills and some of their routines, like from the professional, from the veteran to the younger player. That's just got to that has to be a legacy in your life to have been able to play with those guys on that field.
I mean, I traveled to Wichita. My first game was in '87, and by that time was the game where on Prime Sports, that now later became Fox
Right.
Sports. Um,
Right.
and I remember that game. Fernando Clavijo got a red card. Brian Segura got injured. Brian Messer needed to leave early because the wife was giving birth, and so we were shorthanded. And I remember, and it was in the camera where I was sitting just nervous, waiting to be called to be played. And
Wow.
Brian's Messer was behind me, telling Ron Newman to put me in. Hey, just put him in, put him in. He's ready, just put him in. And I
Right.
remember having behind me there was on the film a conversation between Brian's Messer and Ron Newman,
Wow.
and kind of Ron Newman like, okay, put me in. And I ended up having an assist. We ended up having one of the longest games that year. It was double overtime against Wichita when Wichita had Del Irvine, Chico Borja, rest in peace, Dave, Kim
Right.
Rotman. They
Right.
were just stacked, right? They were very quality players.
Right.
So, who would
Right.
have thought that Brian Messer was kind of interfering for me to get minutes? Who later became the coach that now we all know he is. So,
No
I mean,
kidding.
sharing locker room with those guys that kind of shaped me as a soccer player. And one thing that I share
Right.
with Phil all the time, try to bring that culture that I learned from the late '80s and that he experienced
Right.
in the early '90s into the new soccers, right?
Right.
They have the mindset of always try to do your best and compete to the maximum of our abilities and to win championships. I think that's
Right.
one thing that I learned from it. There was no other reason why you were wearing a soccer uniform, but the only reason is to win and win championship. So that's kind of like the culture
That's
that I
right.
learned. Like um, having good games or having okay games that were acceptable, but at the end of the day, you have to win. You have to win, but not only win championships. And if you cannot do that,
Right.
you are not going to be for a long time wearing a soccer uniform.
Right. That's interesting. What was the process and how did it happen that you ended up going to the Milwaukee Wave?
So Johan Arnio ended up having a head coaching job, which the assistant coach that signed me, and I had a coaching job in at that time NPSL, which is different. It was like a winter league, more American league, lower budget type of league, but there were a lot of teams Midwest and East Coast, right? So
Right.
he signed with Milwaukee, and he brought me and other players from San Diego. Carlos Basso, Felipe Hernandez, San Diego State grad, Arturo Velasco, who also played for the Nomads and played for the Sockers. And we made a trip to Wisconsin, and I was the only one who ended up staying there for 4 seasons. Johan Arnio was coach the team for 2 years, and then he left. And then Keith Tozer, now the commissioner, signed with the Wave, and I ended up playing for him for 2 seasons. And he was the one who turned me into a defender because I was a midfielder. He turned into a defender. So I ended up playing with him. And so Milwaukee Wave, it was kind of like more my prime of my career. I was like 23 to 24, 22, 23, 24, I'm sorry, 21 to 24. So I had the experience for the Sockers until then. And then Milwaukee, that's when I kind of like became a more recognized player in the indoor game. And that's when under both Keith Tozer and Johan Arnio. So my year with Wisconsin. Yeah.
But during that time, or so at some point during that period of time, so Milwaukee's playing in the NPSL at that time. One of the things that I find really interesting, Rene, about your career is that during those years, there's a lot of indoor leagues coming and going. You come in with the original MISL, and then you go over to the NPSL. And didn't you also then, when the Sockers moved to the CISL, weren't you playing year-round soccer? You were playing with the Wave and the Sockers at the same time, weren't you?
Yes. So the NPSL was a winter league. Like I said, it probably ended up early April. And then the CISL started in 1993. And I was drafted by San Diego. Red Newman brought me back to San Diego in 93. So 93, 94, 95 were 3 years that I was playing both leagues, NPSL and CISL. So, I was averaging between 40 plus games in the NPSL and 24 plus games in CISL. So that was pretty demanding. But, I mean, I was doing what I love, man. That was like, Now that I look back, I was really blessed because there were some players that can only play in CSL, others only play in NPSL, and myself with others with a bunch of another like maybe like 20 guys, not that many were playing both leagues, and that's when I just became a full time. I was already like a full time, but now I'm really full time indoor soccer player, and and that was like kind of like my prime right there between 93 to 95, and in 96 the MLS started and I was drafted by Dallas, so I transferred to the outdoor game for a little bit, 2 years, which I ended up going back to indoor with Monterrey La Raza under Eric Geyer in 97.
That's fun. That's outstanding, because I mean Eric Geyer replaced Johan Arnio when Arnio went to Milwaukee. Eric Geyer replaced him as the assistant coach in San Diego, didn't he?
I think it was Kid Weller before him. It was Kid Weller, who, rest in peace, he became the assistant coach. Later on, became the coach of Sacramento. His family still lives in San Diego. And then Eric Geyer, I think it was like 1990 he came in. So he was running the reserve team, the D2, what is called today D2. And so I was playing with Eric, and that's when I get to know him more.
Right.
So when he got the job in Monterrey, he invited me, but the first year I was still with San Diego in 93. So I ended up going to Monterrey in 97. I played there 1 year.
Gotcha.
And then my last year before I retired was in '99 in Arizona with Arizona Thunder here in Phoenix. Still part of the CSL.
And that's
And then
it. Well,
call it.
I think wasn't that the WISL at that time? I mean, hadn't it was now another league, wasn't it? When the with the
It could
Thunder.
be, or it could be in 2000. I don't know when they made the transfer, but it was W or CISL. It was a summer
Yeah.
league. It's
Okay.
pretty much the same format that
Oh, gotcha.
previous CISL had. It was the summer league. Some NBA owners still around, and
Right. Right.
yeah, so they were playing in the months where the MPLSL was not playing. So
Right. Right. So
I,
now, so that pretty much wraps up your playing career. I mean, at that point in time, you're retiring. You retire from the Thunder. But what I find interesting is while you were in Milwaukee, is when you started coaching. So now let's talk about your coaching career
so when when
because
when I
you
was with
started
the soccer,
coaching.
when I first started with the soccer, my old high school coach invited me to assist at my alma mater at Southwest High. So I was helping him a little bit. I was doing in the summer and whenever I could in the afternoons.
Okay.
And when I went to Wisconsin, I was offered a job at a high school, Germantown High
So
School, as assistant coach, Germantown,
right. Right.
Wisconsin. And I was doing summer camps with the Wave. So always being involved in the coaching or the instructional teaching was complemented my soccer career. Right, I was playing, but I also was coaching or doing summer camps. And
So go
yeah,
ahead.
no,
So
no, no.
so
So
what I find interesting, Renee, is that you are coaching high school um, in the late or in the mid '90s, and you're still coaching high school today. I mean,
yeah,
you've been coaching on the high school level for 30 years. That is just, I mean, that is extraordinary, and it's got to be
thank you.
something. It's extraordinary, and the thing that's so cool about that is, I mean, I'm no coach, but I know enough about it to know that when you're coaching your high school kids and coaching veteran professionals, that's a whole different world. I mean, the what they need, teaching the basics on one end, managing egos on the other. That whole thing, it's a completely different complexity of skills on your part. And you've been doing that on the high school level, teaching kids about the beautiful game for 30 years, buddy. That is amazing. So because and it's been a bunch of them. So I mean, Bonita, let's see, El Cajon Valley High School, Marion Catholic High School. Um, Today you're at Hilltop. I mean, you're actually at Hilltop on the campus today, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And go ahead.
I think that the teaching part comes from my mom. My mom is a retired kindergarten principal. She was an educator all her life. So maybe I got it from her that I wanted to be around teams and coaching. And now that I look back, I think I wanted to be connected with the game in some way. So obviously,
Right.
when you retire from playing, made the transition to coaching, and not only just make the transition, but you have to prepare yourself, right? So I got my USSF B coaching license. When I was trying to figure out what to do with my life, went back to college, and I thought that like physical education was probably the best thing closest to being a coach. So I got my education and my master's degree in physical education, and I got my credentials as a coach, and I used the experience that I used as a player. And then one thing that I want to point out, Greg, and you probably appreciate this, I got the three best indoor soccer coaches I play for. I play for the best three indoor soccer coaches of all time. I play for Eric Geyer, I play
Right.
for Keith Tozer,
Right.
and I play for Ren Newman,
Right.
right? And also play with Johan Arnie. So I have all this experience that I have with each one, in addition to my own experience,
Right.
and try to put it together and make it work, right? So I was very blessed, and I said, you know what, I have to take advantage of that experience that very few people have, right? Or people had, being able to play under those three iconic and legendary coaches. And I started coaching indoor soccer in Tijuana, Furati, local teams before the soccer, before anything else. Started doing
Right.
my career as a coach and winning some championships there. And then Maci said, now the president of the Mexican Federation invited me to take a team to Panama City. And I started coaching the Mexican national team in 2002 and until today. And obviously, Phil invited me in 2017 or 18, I believe. I can't remember. No, I think it was 18. And I just blessed that I'm coaching, number one, indoor soccer, and number two, that I'm with the Soccers. And also, same time, manage a way to make it work with
Yeah.
high school and with the national team
Yeah.
and club. Yeah.
So the national team you're talking about in 2002, that was futsal. Is that right?
No, it was indoor soccer. It's indoor soccer.
Oh, okay.
In 2002, we got invited to um,
So,
play, inaugurate the
oh,
first indoor soccer facility of Central America, which in Panama. There were no indoor soccer fields in Central America. So we had an expedition between Mexico and Panama,
interesting.
and we opened the first indoor soccer field in Central America, 2002.
Okay. Wow. That's early. That's really early. So now
Yeah.
you're coaching you're coaching the Mexican national team for six aside. That is the same essentially that's the same team that would be playing indoor World Cup, but six aside WMF is mostly, and I say it that way with emphasis because the first World Cup was in the United States on an indoor field with boards. But since then, it's been being played on a small outdoor field without boards. But the team is essentially the same team, isn't it?
Yeah, so the deal was the World Cup Mini Football. The deal was that we were going to play a World Cup in America, indoor soccer, and a World Cup in Europe or overseas mini football. So every time we play in America, it was going to be indoor soccer. But because
Okay.
of COVID in 2020, that was canceled.
Right.
So we only played one indoor soccer World Cup, 2015, 2017 Tunisia, and then was
Right.
2019 USA, but it was canceled. So the 2019 went back to Australia. I'm sorry,
Right.
2019 was in Australia, and then it was canceled. Sorry, and then now we're back
Right. Right.
into to the mini football. So I think the next World Cup after this one is going to be indoor soccer, and it probably going to be in San Diego. Um,
Oh wow.
I don't know, but
Wow.
I heard it might be in San Diego and maybe in 2 years from now.
Well, I mean, that kind of would make sense because San Diego is going to have a brand new field.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, what a great place! What a great place to highlight the World Cup at Front Wave Arena. I mean, that would be amazing. How fun would that be? So, Rene, let's stay on this subject for a little bit because obviously you're within days, less than 2 weeks at the most, before you're traveling to the Middle East to the United Arab Emirates as the head coach of the Mexican national team to play in the WMF World Mini Football World Cup. You guys are going there as the defending champions, having won in Australia and in 2019. But the fun story, I think, about that is that you guys, I mean, the Mexican team has been on the top of the World Cup story since this whole organization, since this whole thing started in with the 2015 World Cup. You guys were the runners up to the host nation, United States, and that was done. See, what I also found interesting is that was done in a little bit of a different format because in the United States 2015 World Cup, it wasn't at one venue. It was traveling all over the country.
Yeah, 2015 when
Talk, talk
the
about that.
yeah, so 2015 we played in different venues. We played in we started in Dallas, then went to Tulsa, then from Tulsa went to Chicago, and then that's when we ended up playing the championship against the U.S. and Phil Salvaggio was Chiquis. Luna was still a player. They beat us in the final. Um, and then 2000 and that was 2015 or soccer. 2017 Tunisia. That was the first time that both the U.S. and Mexico ever experienced playing mini football, right? So it's very similar as indoor soccer. Obviously, there's no walls. The field's a little bit smaller, but the number of players are the same. And we actually introduced the world the way we sub in indoor soccer and mini football because the mini football they play more like a futsal type of deal where they have a starting lineup and they don't sub unless they're tired or they somebody gets hurt. So Mexico and the U.S. came in as unlimited substitution. Um, that was the first time they saw a six attacker. We're losing against the U.S. and we pull a six attacker. We end up tying that game and we end up to overtime. We end up beating the U.S. Where some of the players still playing today, like Bodis, Tayu brothers.
Yeah,
At that time, the
yeah,
USA team was coached by Bernie Leloa. So they were just kind of like surprised to see the unlimited substitution and playing without a goalie, right? They didn't know that. So and that was 2017, which we ended up losing the final against Czech Republic, which they
right,
were top of the world for the last a few years
right,
before that.
right,
And
right.
that kind of like we learned a lot from that final that we lost, the championship game that we lost.
No kidding.
And at that time, I already invited Luis Borrego, Eusebio Martinez, Victor Melendez as part of my coaching staff, Salvador Manso.
Yep.
And as soon as the championship game ended in Tunisia in 2017, we started put our heads together. How can we do a better job next World Cup? Because we knew we had the talent, we had the players. In 2015, real quick note, we didn't have the only professional team was playing with mostly Mexican players was Chicago. I don't know if you remember the Chicago Mustangs, 2015. They were a team who
Yes, yes,
dominating the West Coast, the Midwest. They were doing well, and most of the players were Mexican. They're from Guadalajara. So I
right,
took that team with a few others that
right.
didn't were not competing at that time, and we made that 2015 team. But by 2019, now we have more players playing
Okay,
the league, and that's when like
right.
Christian Gutierrez, Brandon Escoto, players that we are known now were still young, but they were have some experience, and we brought them into the system and the team. And 2017, that was the year that obviously we won the World Cup in Australia. It was one of the biggest accomplishments ever, obviously obtained by the
Good, good.
Mexican Indoor Soccer Federation and my coaching staff and the players. And since 2019 to now you see, now we had a big problem. You see the list that I have here of all the players. We actually had to cut
Yeah,
and let go of some of the elite players because we're blessed and lucky to have so many good players competing not only in the MASL but in the Indoor Soccer League in Mexico, the Football Rapid Professional League, the Seven
right,
Aside League in Mexico
right,
City,
right,
amateur leagues across the country, um,
right.
ex-professionals that want to make transition to from the outdoor to the indoor. They still have the ability to compete at a higher level. So now we have I have a number like around 30, 34 players that can easily make the team, and we can only carry 17. So we have grown from where we were in 2015 to where it is now, where more players are competing at high level. We have different leagues playing professional or who playing professional or semi-professional soccer. And I think Mexico is in a good place right now when it comes to mini soccer or mini football and indoor
Hmm.
soccer.
Yeah. Renee, one of the things I noticed when I looked at the you guys, I haven't seen the roster for the United States team going to the World Cup, but I have seen the roster for the Mexican team, and I noticed that there was a good portion of the players that are playing with you in San Diego, and a good portion of the players that are playing for the MASL championship team, Chihuahua. Um, and one of the things that sort of hit me right away is the amount of obvious on the field chemistry that these players have with each other because they know each other well. Even the ones that play against each other, they know each other well and have played with each other on other, in other situations in their careers. So it looks like your roster is kind of loaded with players that know each other on the field, know how to play with each other, know the chemistry of the team. Is that when you're having to reduce your roster? Are you looking at that as much as you're looking at the individual skill, or is that kind of the problem that you're having to work with?
So one of the things that coaching staff always take into consideration, number one, is obviously the quality and the ability of the player. Are these players are they winners? Are they proving themselves to be competitors, and they're willing to overcome adversity, right? And we look at their careers, right? So how did they started, where they are, how they end up. The other thing is like the most important, their character. Are there good guys off the field and on the field? Guys who are responsible, who are disciplined, who are willing to be a team player more than an individual, right? And then the third thing, coachable. Are they coachable? Are there? I mean, and am I
Right.
going to be able to communicate well with them and to understand and get the best out of them? And the third team is that are they right now in the best fitness possible or the best soccer prime? Like are they competing right now? They're good to play. So some the offseason that we ended the league in April. So April to October is obviously a few
Right.
months. So
Right.
what they've been doing since the last game of the ASL to now, are they been active? Are they competing? Are they physically fit? Are they healthy?
Right.
Um, and all those things we put it into a vote, and we start exchanging with the coaching staff to put together and assemble the best team possible. Not necessarily the best players possible, but the best team possible, right? Um,
Right.
and there's always one or two players that you might ask me, hey, what happened to this guy? What come he's not playing? Or what come this guy?
Right.
So there's always obviously the a margin of error, if you want to call it, from our part to leave some out, which is
Hmm.
part of the process. But we're very happy to assemble this team. We're gonna miss Cerda, for example. Cerda didn't go because issues with he's in the process of getting his green card, so he cannot leave the country. So that's another thing that we need to consider. Like, are they able to travel? Can they travel or not? Right? And others have
Right.
also personal issues
Right.
that
Right.
they cannot travel. So overall, I mean,
Right.
we're very happy to have the 17 guys that we called. We've been communicating with them. We've been having Zoom meeting. We send them word. So we I must say that by far this is one of the most talented team that I ever assembled for the Mexican national team.
Yeah. And one of the things I noticed, and in a previous conversation that I had with you, um, shortly after you got back from Australia, one of the comments that you made, and it stands in from what you saw on the field down in Australia as well, and then also even during the exhibition matches when you see the Mexican national team come together for friendlies and whatever, the players really take that badge seriously, don't they? I mean, when they put on the colors for the Mexican national team, those players really take it seriously, don't they?
Quick story: after the World Cup, after the championship in Australia, I got a call from the Romanian national coach. He wanted
Mm-hmm.
to. He actually invited me a cup of coffee when he talked to me. So I went down to the lobby. Victor Melendez was with me. He ended up giving me a bottle of wine to as a gift for win the championship. And the first thing he asked me, like, "Hey, can I ask you something?" He goes, "Yeah, what's going on? How you do it where the players work the butt off on the field, like the intensity and how
Right.
what do you say to them toward their heart, right?" And I said, nothing, man. It's a cultural thing. It's a matter of pride. When you wear that shirt, is the maximum accomplishment any players can obtain to play for the national team. And it's something that's engraved since they were little, since we're over little.
Right.
Play for the national team at any level is the most rewarding and satisfying thing. Um, we had a lot of people at home cheering us on and watching the games and getting feedback.
Yep.
So I just
Yep.
don't know how else to explain it, but it comes down to the pride of representing your country had no comparison with any other thing that any other player can experience, right? Playing for the soccer has their own magic. You put the shirt on, there's something magical happening with you. But
Right.
national team is something that you like, kind of like dream since you're little. It's just watching you growing up in the country, and now you have a chance to represent the country. I don't think have any comparison with any other thing. So I think the players understand that, and that's that's I don't know what else to explain it, but it's just a more like it's an honor and it's a pride thing to wear that shirt.
Right. Well, and it even spills over into the regular season during the MASL regular season when and I think there's a lot of American fans that don't quite get this or understand it, but the Mexican teams will advertise, like when Chihuahua is coming to play any team in the United States, their online their social media advertisements are Mexico versus the United States, even though it's Chihuahua versus Dallas. They advertise it as though it's Mexico against the United States, and I mean it's not a national team issue, but it's a national issue. It's a national pride issue because most all of the players that play for say Chihuahua or Monterrey are usually Mexican players, and so they're coming. It's a Mexican team coming from Mexico, going across the national border to play in the United States. And it's kind of funny because even if they play a team like San Diego, which has a ton of Mexican players on the team, it's still playing against the United States.
Right. The rivalry between the two countries in sports, especially in soccer, has grown over the years. And indoor soccer is no exception, right? I mean, you look at the Mexico USA at soccer level, just the rivalry the last few years, few decades, has become the greatest rivalry in the area, right? And indoor soccer is pretty much the same thing. So you're right. Every time we go to play in Monterrey, I mean, it is war. Every time we go to Chihuahua, it is war. It's not. It's because it passes the borders of a team. It's a country versus another country, right? Mexico versus Chihuahua. We're Mexican. We're gonna beat a USA team.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's actually really cool. I mean, to have that international feel is absolutely awesome. So as far as this year's team that you're taking to the United Arab Emirates in a couple of weeks, how many of these players? I don't mean you don't need to name them, but approximately how much of your roster is the same? Are guys that went to Australia with you in 2019?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
10.
So
10 out of 17. So we got. I can give you a list. I mean, Berna, who was the Chihuahua last year. Chris, the goalkeeper from Monterrey. And then we got Pino and Mitchell. Mitchell's the first time he played for us. We got Pee Wee, we got Swart and Escalante. Swart and Escalante played for Chihuahua last year. Then we got Christian Gutierrez, Charlie Gonzalez. And we got Iram Pollo, who's no longer with us. He just transferred to Monterrey. We got Rios, Pareja Rios from Chihuahua. Escoto from San Diego. Popper from Chihuahua. Then we got Torres, who was in Chihuahua, who's now in Monterrey. Moy Gonzalez, who plays in Baltimore. We got that's it. Those are 17. So Yeah, so we got a good number 10 returning players who were with us last World Cup, and complemented with new guys like Escalante, Suart, Mitchell, Charlie Gonzalez. I mean, it just I think it's just you know what I
Right.
mean, like Chris, the goalkeeper, um, Rios.
Wow.
So, like I
Yeah.
said,
Wow.
I think we have a very balanced team, um, and I just want to say that I think USA is going to be very tough. Also, they win and they
Right.
won the European Cup for indoor for mini football right not too long ago
Absolutely.
in the summer.
Yeah, that,
And
that was huge.
I think they're just going to be better than that team. I know Phil
Yeah.
and the people in charge. They put in a lot of effort, and I just think it's going to be an excellent World Cup. The competition is going to be now Czech Republic, Romania, all the guys that we played last, Brazil, they had
Brazil.
that experience of playing them last World Cup, so now they're gonna be
Right.
better prepared. They're gonna be more. They're gonna now they know us better. They know us more because back then they didn't know us as much. So it's gonna be a very interesting World Cup, and I just think it's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be intense, and it's gonna be a high level of soccer.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mexico is going to have the target on their back, man. Everybody you play is going to come gunning for you because you've got that championship. I've got to ask you, where do you keep that beautiful trophy? Where does that
I
trophy live?
think that Alfredo Maciz, the president, has it in his house or might be in the office in Mexico City. I know after the World Cup, the trophy was touring Mexico. I would say one of the biggest accomplishments in sports, not only indoor soccer, but in sports, was winning the World Cup. So we're very proud of that. And
Yeah.
Alfredo, with Federation, were showing the trophy. Um, but that's in the past. That's over. We
Yeah.
need to focus on what's up next, and I think it's just we have to be responsible and aware that what's up to come. We need to be prepared, and that's what we try to do with the
Yeah.
coaching staff. Yeah,
Well, absolutely the best of luck for you in the UAE.
and I
That's
know
going to
you're
be
rooting for the
exciting.
USA. So I know you're rooting for the
Well,
USA. So
actually, I'm rooting for the USA when they're not playing Mexico, and I'm rooting for the Mexican team when they're not playing the USA. Whenever you guys come against the United States, if it's Mexico versus the United States, you're right. I will be rooting for the United States.
last year it was USA was beating Czech Republic, and we were this close to playing against each other in the semifinal.
Right.
But the
I
Czech Republic
remember.
like pull it back in the last second half, and they ended up being a very close game against the U.S. But I mean, who knows? We might.
Well,
I mean, we'll see.
yeah.
We'll
I
see
mean,
what.
honestly, Rene, I'm not blowing any smoke here. If Mexico is not fielding against the United States, then I'm a Mexico fan. Are you kidding me? I mean, I
Thank
have
you.
always I and it's see, I'm kind of funny that way when it comes to soccer because I'm that way all the time in all soccer. I mean, I want Mexico to do well all the time, even whether it's the FIFA World Cup or the Olympics or anything. I always want Mexico to do well, which is unless they're playing the United States. And the only
And
reason
I
I say
also
that is because
I wanna applaud
go ahead.
you because I see your comments. Obviously, I follow your page, and I would see San Diego Sockers get a lot of trash talk, and there's a lot of people that obviously don't like the Sockers, right? And you play it very cool. You are a good sportsman. When Chihuahua beat
I
us,
appreciate
you
that.
have anything but good things to say about Chihuahua, and you congratulate him, which is very hard things to
Absolutely,
do when you lose, right? Because
I know.
your best team just lost, and the way we lost. But you always keep it fair, man, and you always keep it honest. And I think
I
legitimate,
appreciate
you
that.
are a legitimate fan of the sport, and I just applaud you for that,
Yeah,
and keep up the good work. And because I
thank you.
think you are a model to follow as somebody that loves the sport and how to keep it honest and how to be it clean and how to keep it respectful, which is sometimes very hard to do when there's a lot of
I
emotions going on, right? There's a lot of yeah. So Thank you.
I appreciate that, Renee. I can't tell you. I'll say this publicly. I cannot tell you how many times I have actually finished a comment, an online social media comment. I've actually printed the whole thing out. I've typed the whole thing out. I've read through it. And I'm going, nah, and I delete it. I'll say something that I just probably shouldn't say, and I just delete it. So, what you guys see on social media is highly filtered emotions. I'll get the emotions out there, and then I won't put them out there in social media. I'll be slamming my fist or something like that. And then when it's and then there's also people that sort of hide behind the computer screen and talk trash, knowing that there's no repercussions. And as you probably know, the MASL off the wall page is there's 8,000 members on that page. And I mean, if anybody types in an F-bomb or something like that, I don't even bother contacting them privately anymore and saying, could you change it? I just delete it. I'm just not going to have that kind of conversation, because out of those 8,000 people, there's a lot of family, wives, kids that take part. And I just want I want it to be a safe format for people to be a part of. And trash talk is fine. Trash talk is fine as long as it's not, dropping an F-bomb on the referee. Saying something like the referee. If somebody wants to, put a picture like this and say the referee is blind, that's funny. I'm good with that. But when people start making it personal, then nah, we're not going to go there. I want to shift gears a little bit with you. Are you going to be leading the San Diego Sockers 2 this season?
We haven't talked to Sean. I really don't know what's going to happen with that program. I know our preseason starts when we come back from the World Cup, and I'm supposed to meet with Sean and this week to see what's going to happen with the D2. And I just what's up to come when we're going to start with the soccer. So yeah, we got a lot of homework to do in the next few weeks regarding the soccer's next season.
Do you have any feelings, input, any words about the bringing in Guadalajara for this season, having a third team down?
Yeah, I really don't know if it's going to happen this year. I know there was some issues with some of the arena and some of the stuff. So I know Kitor will be saying that if we ever want to bring a Guadalajara team back, have to be with the right time. And sometimes I just don't know if that's going to happen or not. But that's up to the league to decide. But I can tell you, if Guadalajara doesn't come this year, I know for sure next year will come in. We already planted the seed there. People are excited. We have a strong group. Alex is doing some homework there. So we just got to make sure it's right, and we have no issue with Guadalajara. So if it not happen this year, for sure next year will come.
Well, that's interesting, because as far as everything that I've seen, it's been a sure deal. Like, yes, Guadalajara is going to be in the league. Yes, they're going to be there. They are the expansion team this season, but you're saying that that's a possibility that it won't be until next year?
Correct. That's what I heard so far. I haven't. So that's probably a question for Keith.
Okay.
But that's kind of like I heard, and I haven't been in contact with Sean or anybody in the league, but I really don't know what to tell you. I know the schedule's coming out soon, so the best way to find out if they're coming in is when you look at the schedule, right? You look at the schedule if they're not.
Right.
And I know the schedule's coming out soon, so yeah, we'll know when the schedule comes out.
That was my next question. My next question was going to be everybody. I think the big, the big, conversation on social media is, where is the schedule? When's the schedule coming out? And my feeling, I know when I had Sean on here last week, he made the comment that they had received what he called a tentative schedule, and that they were ironing out details for the before it could be released. And so that sounds very positive. But yeah, you're absolutely right, aren't you? If Guadalajara is on the schedule, then I guess Guadalajara is going to play. If
Correct.
Guadalajara is not on it, that's awesome. Oh shoot, Rene Ortiz, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you. You and I have had some opportunities. I'm just going to throw this out there as in a closing. You and I have had some opportunities to talk over the years. One of my fun, memorable moments was when we were coming back from Kansas City, and my flight and the soccer's flight was the same, going from Kansas City through Phoenix and then from Phoenix to San Diego. And I had the pleasure of sitting with you on both flights all the way home. And the conversations that we had were very fun, very personal, very real. And it's always great to meet with you and talk with you. I appreciate your kind words and I appreciate you very much. Rene Ortiz, San Diego Soccer's assistant coach, Mexico World Mini Football National Team head coach. Thank you so much for joining me today, Rene. Have a great weekend.
Right. Thank you so much for having. Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
buddy.
Have a good one.
All right, take care, man. Bye bye.
Bye bye.